there and will continue to be there. So it's really an incredibly powerful data set. And there's one last quick result I want to show you that's sort of new and fun. I've been working with my colleague Veronica Neves to look at the recent global warming hiatus, as it's been called. Now, you may have heard something about this in the news. Scientists have been kind of puzzling over what's going on with global warming in the last 10 or 20 years. And it turns out that's actually a misnomer. You shouldn't really be calling it the global warming hiatus, because if we look at the surface temperature in the last 20 years, it was rising pretty fast in the 80s and 90s. And then in the last decade, global surface temperature kind of flattened out. And we didn't have a very fast rise in global surface temperature. And it turns out if you look at the different places in the ocean that are either warming or cooling, in the Pacific Ocean, right at the surface, we've had this enormous cooling. So, what's going on? This cooling was big enough to kind of hide the increase in global surface temperature for the last 10 years. But as I probably already mentioned, or as we'll get to in a little bit, global warming didn't really stop. The surface temperature stopped increasing, but the warming as a whole continued. And it turns out that even though there wasn't much warming at the surface, there was a lot of warming going on just below the surface in the Pacific. So a lot of this heat was hiding in what we call the Pacific warm pool. So really, there is no hiatus in global warming. There was a bit of a hiatus in surface temperature, but in terms of global warming, we're still chugging right along, as you'll see in some slides a little bit later. So, I want to talk